This is Smarter San Diego TV.
The entire theater is like a time machine. It just transports you, and you're submerged in this music, in the energy, and you feel it.
What do you think the employers are going to do? They're going to cut back on wage increases. They're going to cut back on hiring.
#billion.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B.
County's committed to staying within our existing footprint. We're not going beyond the fence line.
You don't have to make it this big red flag or this big awful thing. It can still be a very pleasant transaction for everyone that's involved.
Scripps Ranch is obviously highly desirable and people have lived there for a long time, so why would you want to leave?
Welcome to Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, and we do it all commercial free. I'm Rebecca Peters, your co-host, introducing all of our wonderful guests for today. But first, let's meet your host and financial expert, Derek Evans.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the introduction. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all the hard work out on the streets.
Oh, of course.
That you've been doing. You went to Imperial Beach recently.
Yeah.
What did you think? You've never been to IB. I've still never been there.
Super nice. Definitely recommend it.
Okay. Well, let's check out what was the theme?
The theme was jobs. Crazy stories from jobs people have now or have had previously, or maybe just a crazy job in general. Crazy people.
Job stories.
Yes.
Ooh, I've got some good ones. Let's see what the people of Imperial Beach had to say.
What's up, San Diego? I'm here in the beautiful Imperial Beach. It's my first time here and I'm absolutely loving it. But we're here to talk to the locals and maybe some visitors about their jobs, what they've had in the past, what they have now, etc., etc. And Derek, just as you asked, I'm wearing my hair in a bun. But more importantly, let's go get some people to talk about their jobs. What would you say was your favorite job in the past?
Waitering. Oh man, waitering was killer.
I've been doing construction for about 3 years.
Working with my cousin in Colorado as a barn assistant.
Plumbing job that I had.
Assisting for a salon.
A homeowners association.
And I was a good waiter. Sorry to pat my own back. Yeah.
Do you have any funny stories from your waiting days?
Okay, yes I does.
Showing kids how to get on a horse, get off a horse, teach them how to vault.
When I was working at Croce's, they hired this new waitress. There was a staircase you had to go up. And she had a tray of 5 fettuccine Alfredos.
This guy would work from his house. We would go to his room waiting for calls, and he would lock the doors behind him, and he would get his machete and he would put it against his head.
It stopped and I fell from it and landed right in the poop. I'm just glad it wasn't a faceplant.
And I'd be like, what are you doing? And he'd be like, this is how I think.
And she went up the stairs and she lost balance of it. And she just pushed it on the wall. So once you let go of it, bang.
And I'd be looking for exits, like he flips out, where am I going? I'm going for a different job now.
It wasn't just a crazy job, you had to work with a crazy person as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of crazy bosses, right? I mean, a machete?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I sat at my desk with a machete on my forehead?
Yeah.
We recently were filming, and you were there with us.
Oh, God.
When this listing, and there was
Speaking
a crazy
of
neighbor.
Crazy jobs.
Yeah, crazy neighbor. And by the way, next week in the show open, we're going to give you a teaser of the new reality show that's being filmed that we're doing here in San Diego called Win This Listing. It's about real estate. It's HGTV style. Really cool. It's going really well.
Yeah.
I expect the teaser to be good. But we're going to actually preview that for the first time ever next week in the open of this show. And one thing I'm sure you'll see in that teaser is a crazy neighbor. So here's the best advice I can give you. If your boss has a machete that they carry around, quit.
Yeah.
Quit right away. Don't go back to that environment. It's a really bad sign.
It's like some Breaking Bad shenanigans
a
right there.
machete? It's one thing if it's a bread knife, like maybe he's using it for something else, but machetes are only used for one thing: intimidation and harm.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't live in the jungle. So, but how about 5 fettuccine Alfredos? What table orders 5 fettuccine Alfredos?
Oh, you'd be surprised. I worked in an Italian restaurant.
Really?
Yeah.
The whole table will order fettuccine Alfredo?
Yeah, especially if there's kids there or just, I don't know, I love fettuccine Alfredo.
Whole table of fettuccine Alfredo? That's so boring.
I've done it.
I've actually seen that exact same thing happen, by the way. I worked in the restaurant industry when I was in college, and I saw someone have the same situation where they had to basically slam a tray up against the wall. and there was no choice. It was they were either going to eat it or they were going to slam it up against the wall. So I've actually seen that happen before.
Oh, that sucks.
And
so
you kind
bad.
of hold it there, and stuff's dripping, and then eventually it's just kind of like, all right, you just kind of get
Time
it down.
for the shame.
You get it down as far as you can, and then
The wall of shame.
clear everyone out. Let the kitchen know. But it does happen. We have a jam-packed show, so let's get it started. I got to get my jacket on because we got to start the show.
Our next guest is here to discuss an amazing expression of theater, which takes you all the way back through the great history of China. The show is called Shen Yun, and it's back in San Diego. Please welcome to the program volunteer presenter of Shen Yun shows San Diego, Sophia Fang.
Yay, Sophia's here. What's up?
Hi, Derek. Good to see you again.
Great to see you again. Now, last time we met, I hadn't seen the show yet. I have seen the show since. Unbelievable. I know what all the fuss is about finally. This is the last chance people get to see it this year in San Diego, right?
Yes, it was here in January, and then it's going to be here again in downtown.
The end of March, that's at the Civic Theatre?
Civic Theatre, yes.
Yeah, that's so cool. So for people who don't know about the show, tell us, what is the show about?
Okay. This is a show of dance and music. It takes the audience on a journey of 5,000 years of history. It takes you to different dynasties, look at the different costumes and different stories and legends, all the way up to present day. It has live dancing, it has a live orchestra, and it also has stunning animated backdrop.
I've never seen anything like that before, I'll tell you right now. It's like the entire back of the theater is like an LED screen, and it's three-dimensional. So you'll see like a little person like flying up towards the screen, and then a real person comes. It's crazy. I don't even know how they do it. It's so wild. But there's that, and then the full orchestra too was totally unexpected. But then there's presenters who are narrating, kind of telling you what's going on in between the different acts and stuff. Really, really cool. If you like theater at all, if you're interested in history at all, there's a lot for people to get from this performance. And really a presentation too. I mean, it's as much a presentation as it is a performance. You obviously have a lot of the presenters, the performers. They have a lot of work to do to be able to perform the way that they do.
Exactly.
But there's a story that's being told.
Right.
I was going to ask, what does Shen Yun actually mean?
Yeah. Shen Yun, literally translated, Shen means divine. And Yun is an abstract concept. It's like when you see a person, you see an aura, you have got a feel of this person. So Shen Yun put together, it means beauty of divine beings dancing.
Oh, and, that's really nice.
And the divine aspect is Shen Yun Performing Arts presents classical Chinese dance, and it captures the essence of traditional Chinese culture through the universal language of dance and music. So like Derek said, that it has this backdrop, the 3D, it extends the stage to infinity. You know, in one program, the audience can be transported to the Mongolian grasslands, the vast grasslands. And the next program, they can be in the Himalaya Plateau. Is spiritually uplifting and is extremely entertaining.
It's truly amazing. So tell us about the performers. This is like is this a full-time job for them? Because they're traveling all over the world, aren't they?
Yes. Shen Yun started in 2006 in New York by a group of mostly Chinese artists with the mission to revive the traditional Chinese culture. And they started to travel around the globe with one touring company of about 100 artists. Now they have grown to 4 equally sized traveling groups. So it's a grand production. They're traveling simultaneously around the globe, and with handmade costumes and all this, the technology, the backdrops. It's a very effective way of presenting a culture that's almost lost, especially with the help of the modern technology. They basically, China is the only country in the world that has 5,000 years of recorded history. The civilization is there recorded. So they would just look at the history, 5,000 years, pick out stories, and then present them on stage in a dance and musical format. The stories have messages embedded in it, like the virtues that have been going on through generations in China, like filial piety, the Mulan story that a lot of people know about Mulan. They present Mulan story on the stage a couple of years ago, and virtues like the righteousness, justice, and faithfulness, these kind of things that are universal to humankind, even though it is classical Chinese, traditional Chinese culture. But what they want to do is to use dance, use music to share this culture with the world. It just doesn't only belong to the Chinese. It's a world heritage that we all should treasure, and we all should keep it going.
And they're selling these places out too.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
It's sold out. I hate to say this, but if you want to see the show, you should go right now. Go to the website right now and try to get a ticket, because it's quite possible there aren't any available. But if there are, you should jump on it and go see this show, and you'll see what I mean. Take my word for it. It's an awesome afternoon, not just because of all the different stories and how organized and well presented it is, but like you mentioned in the beginning, there's an aura sort of going on in the theater that you can feel. What is that? What's going on with that? How is that possible? Everyone says the same thing, and it's true. I felt it myself.
Yeah. In traditional Chinese culture, artists believe that to present true art, true beauty, they must have a inner beauty, inner clarity, and so with the Shen Yun artists paying attention to their own inner spiritual world, they really believe in what they do. They really believe in the mission of reviving these traditions. And so everything comes from within. If somebody does something that they truly believe in, and you can see, like from an audience point of view, you see their facial expressions, you see their beautiful classical Chinese dance moves. These are all from within. And naturally, we have this energy. Everybody has an energy, right? But their energy field is just amazing because they're pure beauty, pure energy. With the music, the amazing orchestra that combines Eastern musical instrument with the classical Western orchestra, it creates a music that's mesmerizing. It's the sound that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. So once you are submerged in the sight and the sound, the entire theater is like a time machine. It just really transports you, and you're submerged in this music, in the energy, and you feel it.
You feel it.
Yeah.
It's like throbbing.
Yeah,
it's just like feeling it right
it's
now.
So it
Not
really
even
is
there.
worth checking out. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time today. We
You're
really,
very
really
welcome.
appreciate it. If
Thank you for
haven't
having
had a
here.
chance to check it out, Shen Yun is still in San Diego just for the last time. It's happening right now. So go to the website on the screen, check it out, get your tickets, and stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guest is our favorite tax savant. You've seen him before, and you'll see him again. Please welcome back board-certified tax attorney, Jeffrey B. Kahn.
There he is. Mr. Kahn is here.
Thank you.
All right.
Taxman in the house.
Taxman's in the house. Okay. So a lot going on with the election, upcoming election. Yep. We're kind of in the heat of that presidential race. And one of the things that everyone seems to have an opinion on is taxes. So we went through Trump's tax plan a few months back. And now I saw in Yahoo Finance that someone was attacking Bernie Sanders for his tax plan.
Correct.
He's trailing Hillary Clinton quite a bit right now, so we don't know if it would even matter. But there are a lot of Bernie supporters out there, a lot, who still think he has a chance to win.
That's correct.
So, Jeff, today I thought it'd be a good idea to have you break down the Burns tax plan to see if there's some legitimacy there, or if this article in Yahoo was a little bit biased. So what can you tell us about Bernie's tax plan?
Well, with Bernie's tax plan, basically he's looking to raise taxes by at least $1 trillion. $1.2 trillion, and the article does go to point out that it's looking at $2.5 trillion after a few years. And basically what he's looking to do with the increased revenues is essentially fund public education post-high school, so that anyone who wants to go to college, public university, or public college, by the way, not private, can essentially go for free. That's what he's looking to do. But the way he's going about funding this huge, huge expense, I think it's going to be counterproductive to the economy and actually cost jobs.
Where does he think he can find this $1.2 trillion, Jeff?
Well,
is it income tax that's going to be raised?
Yeah, he thinks that essentially by taxing wealthy Americans, by taxing the speculators on Wall Street, and by hitting employers with an additional 6.2% payroll tax, that this is how he's going to fund it. I think that payroll tax, that's a killer in his plan.
6%?
Yeah, 6.2% extra.
Federal.
Remember, yeah, employers are already paying about that amount for the employer share of the Social Security tax. Now, essentially, if you're going to double that for the employers, what do you think the employers are going to do? They're going to cut back on wage increases. They're going to cut back on hiring. So that's great. In a few years, you have all these people graduating from public universities because, you know, they got to go there for free under the Bernie Sanders plan, but there's not going to be any jobs waiting for them. Instead, any of these new jobs, they're going to be outsourced to places where they're not going to have to worry about paying the 6.2% tax.
Yeah, to keep jobs in the United States would be helpful.
Correct.
Not to move them out of the United States. We already have that happening.
Exactly.
In record numbers. In fact, we just saw Ford is opening their biggest plant ever, their biggest production plant ever in Mexico. You know, that's a shame. Those are really good jobs. Those are jobs that should be here in the United States, and
exactly.
a tax like that is not going to help.
Exactly. It really is a regressive tax, and it's a tax that's going to basically destabilize or turn away potential employment. Like a good example, San Francisco. San Francisco for a long time based its city license tax on payroll. So what that meant was the more people you hired to work in the city, the higher the city tax you're going to have to end up paying. Well, recently they changed that. They changed to gross receipts basis, which is how most cities set up their local taxes, where basically you pay a tax like a sales tax based on how much your sales are.
That's one of those things where I think for Bernie, unfortunately, I like the guy. I think he's a good man. I think he has good intentions.
Yeah.
And I think we could do a lot worse as far as presidents are concerned. But not understanding the business element, this is what I mean.
Yeah,
if you don't understand how businesses run and how people make decisions in business, you can come up with something like this and go, oh, it's just 6%. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's just 6%. You know, but at the end of the day, that's a big, big problem. 6% is a lot.
It is a lot.
Now, some of these candidates, Jeff, are talking about abolishing the IRS. Have you heard that one?
Oh, everyone. I've heard it all the time. It's been going on for decades, Look, I'm not worried about job security because the government doesn't operate for free. They've got to get their revenues from somewhere. I guess you could say they could just print money, but, you know, forget it. The dollar would be worth nothing.
Yeah, right.
So as long as there's government, they need to get revenues from somewhere.
I think a flat tax is something that's reasonable for a candidate to proposition, you know, potential constituents with. But the idea of being able to sit there and say, I'm going to abolish the IRS. When you hear a candidate say that, you know they're full of it. You know there's no way they could possibly believe that they could accomplish that on their own.
That's right.
It's just impossible.
Yeah.
Now, to put forth a plan, an idea of here's a flat tax plan, an idea, that's one thing. But to say you're going to abolish the IRS means that you're grandstanding. It's not realistic.
Many foreign countries, actually, their tax system is not based on income taxes. Like here, they use the value-added tax. And what that means is that every level of service or a purchase, you know, from a manufacturer to a wholesaler to a retailer, service provider to a customer, you're paying a set level of tax. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 15%, whatever. So to the extent you pay a tax to the manufacturer, now you end up collecting a tax from the customer. Those two will end up offsetting. So the bottom line is, even though you're going down the food chain or up the food chain, however you want to look at it, and each bite becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, you're still getting credit for the previous bites or the previous payments that you had, you know, to make.
What do you think about a national sales tax? Is that something that could be effective, in your opinion?
That could be. Now, that's a tax, you know, of course, on expenditures, and where something like that falls really hard would be on poor people, the middle class, who essentially will spend a greater share of their money than, say, like somebody who's wealthy. Because after all, you know, once you take out like mortgage payments and stuff like that, it really costs the same amount of money for us to eat, breathe, you know, clothe ourselves, that kind of stuff. And so, of course, if that's all being constant, those costs are being constant, it's less of a drain for somebody who's wealthy to have to pay maybe, you know, 5% more in a national sales tax versus, you know, somebody who's struggling and trying to make ends meet, and now all of a sudden on these basic purchases, they got to pay like another 5% more in sales tax.
No, that makes sense. Great stuff from board certified tax attorney Jeffrey B. Kahn. Thank you so much for being here, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tax questions, tax problems, call Jeffrey Kahn. He will take care of things for you. He's done it for me multiple times, hit a grand slam every time. You can trust him, I guarantee you that. And stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guest is a pillar in the world of downtown real estate. Please welcome back from yoursdhome.com, Nicole Hazleton, and her special guest from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, Janet Hamada.
Hello. Golf clap for you.
Thank you for having us.
Looking fantastic, both of you are today. Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Nicole, you this is something that's important to you.
It is important to me. They do a campaign every year called the Man and the Woman of the Year campaign, where they have this crazy fundraising event for 10 weeks. And I worked on it last year for a Man of the Year, and this year I nominated a colleague of mine downtown, and so I'd like to have Janet on here to talk a little bit more about the foundation and what the fundraising event's all about.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like there's a lot of events going on.
Yes. So the Man Woman of the Year campaign is one of our fundraising campaigns with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. It's a 10-week blind fundraising competition.
Blind?
So, yes. So nobody knows anyone else's score, you know, totals. No one knows what, where they are in their fundraising. So we call on business leaders and community influencers to be nominated. And once they accept, they take their 10 weeks to activate their networks, do different events, fundraise by sponsorships, auction items, whatever works for your network. And with that comes a lot of fun events in all throughout San Diego.
Very cool. So let's talk about the society itself.
Sure.
Sort of what it does. I mean, it sounds self-explanatory, but I don't want to assume anything. So tell us what you're raising this money for.
Sure. So the Leukemia Lymphoma Society is the #1 voluntary health organization funding research for blood cancer treatments. So our mission is to cure blood cancer. So that's leukemia, lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and multiple myeloma, and to ensure quality of life for the patients and their families. So in order to do that, our main mission is to raise enough funds to find a cure, and which is one of the reasons why we have fundraising campaigns like Man Woman of the Year to really activate our community.
Okay. And tell us about some of the things that the society has done, has accomplished.
Sure.
In
so
recent history.
our organization has been around for over 60 years. And during that time, we've raised over $1 billion and funded over $1 billion worth of cancer research.
Hashtag billion.
Billion with a B. Hashtag.
Billion with a B. And so with that, stem cell transplants, those were first founded through research that was done by LLS.
Wow.
And there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, even after we find a cure, that quality of life for survivors. Another really interesting thing that people don't know about is blood cancer research and treatments are kind of the tip of the iceberg for all cancer treatments. So we have a lot of treatments that we found through LLS funded research that is now being used for solid tumor cancers, autoimmune diseases. So it's not just blood cancer we're dealing with. We're really finding treatments and cures for different types of diseases.
So this thing you have going on, Man, Woman of the Year. So there's Man of the Year, Woman of the Year. There's several candidates, and those people essentially help raise funds by going to their networks and saying, hey, vote for me to be Man of the Year.
Correct.
By donating.
Right.
And is it whoever gets the most money in? Is that who
Yeah,
wins?
so at the end of the 10 weeks, we have a gala event, and the votes are $1 equals 1 vote. So the Man of the Year candidate that raises the most votes and the Woman of the Year candidate that raises the most votes will win the title of Man, Woman of the Year at the end of the gala.
Ah, cool. Is it gala or gala?
I go back and forth. Today it's
Hashtag. I don't know how
from
to say
it's
it.
gala.
Yeah.
Hashtag gala.
Gala.
I think gala sounds more
elegant.
Yeah, it does.
I go back and forth. I just try to stay with whatever I start with, so people aren't confused. Yeah.
Okay, we'll stick with that.
And in 2015, the campaign that I worked on raised $50,000, and so the nominee was able to name a research portfolio in his name because he was a survivor. And so this year, David Spiewak, who I'm campaigning for Man of the Year, his goal is to raise $50,000 to also do that in honor of his father, who lost his life to leukemia. So that's the goal. So even if they don't win Man or Woman of the Year, all of those funds are going towards the same cause. They're all, fighting for the same thing. And I think as a whole, the candidates in 2015 raised over $400,000 in 10 weeks.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so hard to raise money.
It is.
The nonprofit world, there's just so many charities, so many big charities now, and they get the majority of the funds, and it's really tough out there to go and raise money. So this is a unique way to do it. I think it's really cool. But also, by the way, a buddy of mine in high school had lymphoma. It's totally out of the blue. I mean, a 17-year-old kid. How does he get lymphoma? It's not like he was raised by smokers or anything that would make sense. He just got it. Now, he was able to beat it because of the early detection, but it was a very scary time.
Yeah.
For one of my closest friends.
The #1 leading cause of death for those under 20. And there's also 2 children involved in the campaign as well for Boy and Girl of the Year.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
so
cool.
I know there are honored heroes. They're local patients. So this year, a Boy of the Year is DJ. He's 4 years old. He just finished treatment, so actually he's still going to have maintenance treatment for several years, but he's cancer-free.
Wow.
And our Girl of the Year is Ava Foster, and she's a 2-time survivor. She's 5. And so she was first diagnosed at 17 months, and she went through an umbilical cord stem cell transplant. 2 years post-transplant now. She's doing really well. And the great thing is, when you see these kids, you would never even guess that they were battling something like this or that they have battled something like this. But they serve as our inspiration as well.
They do.
So cool. So what can people do, who are watching to be involved, to help out?
Well, we're hosting a series of events that you can find on our website for David's campaign. It's called Jam to Toast, and that's because his father liked to jam out on the guitar, and we're toasting his honor. So we're hashtag spreading the word. It's just a great time for community leaders and business owners to get involved. We're looking for corporate sponsors. We're looking for companies to match our donations that have been earned at different events, and just reaching out. There's a donation link on our website as well, but it's more fun to come to the events and actually meet the candidates. We're doing a big Padre game in April, a huge wig out event downtown in May, and then a lot of different events, so there's something for everybody to get involved.
Very, very cool, and we'll definitely spread the word. So is it the case, sponsorships and donations are obviously paramount in this space, right? That's really what you're looking for. There are also opportunities for volunteering and things like that that are available?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so each candidate, when they have their events, I know they can definitely use help from volunteers from the community. And also at our gala event, we need volunteer help to kind of put the whole event together. And then throughout the year, we have several other campaigns. So there's different ways for individuals to get involved, whether it be coming into our office and helping us with some of our office admin things, or helping us at different events throughout the year.
So we're looking for raffle prizes. We're also looking for donations for the silent auction at the gala or the gala. There's lots of ways to get involved there. We're looking for print sponsors and florists that will, sponsor and donate big bouquets for the tables, which is usually about 40. Table captains, if you'd like to get your company involved, or family members or friends, and get a table together to come to this wonderful event. It is in May.
Okay,
Yeah.
great stuff. And Nicole, I have to say kudos to you for taking time
Thank
out of your
you.
busy real estate career to show that you care about the community and help with such a great cause. So really appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming in today, Janet.
Thank you
Really
for having
appreciate
me.
your time. It's been great to have you. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Commercial free.
Our next guest is our go-to guy for everything Carlsbad. Please welcome back Brian DeVore and his special guest, the manager of McClellan Palomar Airport, Olivier Brackett.
Welcome to the show, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you both
Thank
for being
you.
here.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Carlsbad.
Yes.
Brian DeVore, welcome back.
Thank you.
This is an interesting situation because the Palomar Airport is in Carlsbad, obviously.
Right.
But it's owned by the County of San Diego.
Correct.
So what's going on with this? I know you wanted to bring Olivier on today to sort of discuss it, but tell us, so for people in Carlsbad, what's happening right now?
Sure. So for a number of years, the airport in Carlsbad has served smaller aircraft and mostly smaller commuter type situations, and they've been talking about doing some things at the airport and changing the master plan to allow perhaps larger airlines come in, maybe expand the runway. And we're getting to the point now where they're working on the 20-year master plan for the airport. And I thought, what better opportunity to talk about what's happening and welcome people to come in and provide their input than right now. And so I wanted to have who else better than the manager of the airport to come on and discuss it.
Olivia, thank you so much for being here
Thank you for having
talk
me.
to us today about this. So a 20-year plan. Sounds like it's a long-term deal.
It is long-term.
You know, it's going to take a while for it to come to fruition. But what do we know right now so far?
Absolutely. Well, we're coming up to the end of our old master plan. And just like the old master plan from '95 predicted that we would have larger aircraft servicing the airport, we do today. So we went out and in the study, the FAA has rules and regulations that say if you have more than 500 operations of a particular size aircraft, you need to plan for that size airplane. So we went out and looked at what type of airplanes are using Palomar today. And we have larger jets that are using the airport today than we did in the past, C and D size airplanes. In fact, we have over 6,000 operations of those type of aircraft that are using the airport today. So as part of this master plan, we've got a number of projects, potential projects, that we're looking at to improve the airport. And just for the record, we're not expanding the airport. The county's committed to staying within our existing footprint. We're not going beyond the fence line.
Okay, so not going to take over any more land to
Correct.
expand the airport.
Exactly.
It's more about just becoming more efficient with the space you have.
Well, the safety projects, design projects to make it more efficient for the existing users.
Makes sense. So you're the manager of the airport. So what does that mean? What do you do?
Certainly. Well, to get to where I am today, I started out, I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years. I was an air traffic controller. And then I retired as the air traffic control manager and FAA examiner at the tower at MCAS Camp Pendleton. My last work day was September 14th, 2001.
Wow.
Then I'm looking for a job. I went over to Palomar Airport and started as a volunteer. Well, pretty soon the federal government was starting this new agency nobody knew anything about called the TSA. There's a lot of rules and new rules and regulations coming down the pike. The director of all the 8 county airports said, well, I've got all this extra work. I don't have the staff to do it. Hey, I know this Marine guy needs a job. So I became the first security and safety coordinator for all the 8 county airports. I then, a couple years after that, picked up the noise job as well from McClellan Palomar Airport, and I did that for several years, and then transitioned to the assistant manager, and about 8 years later, I transitioned to the manager's position. I got an aviation degree in professional airport management while I was in the Marine Corps, and that's how I got to where I am today.
Okay. First of all, thank you for your service to this country.
Thank you, sir.
Really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And obviously, there's some questions that are going to come up. Mr. DeVore, I know you were on Facebook. You said, hey, people, tell us.
Yes.
You're in the patch.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so you're in the patch, and you're saying, hey, people, tell us what questions you want to have answered. And a lot of people were asking about traffic, noise,
right,
safety concerns.
Sure. Well, the potential runway improvements we're talking about would allow, if you have a longer runway, you allow aircraft to start their takeoff roll sooner. So on their departure over the community, they're higher, faster, quicker, so there's less noise impact to the community on their departures. So with the potential runway improvements, you're talking about with a longer runway, you allow aircraft to start their takeoff roll sooner, so they're higher, faster over the community on their departures. So actually, the studies indicate that it would shrink the noise contours for the surrounding community with the aircraft departing on a longer runway. Some of the safety projects that are proposed include EMAS. It's an emergency material arresting system. Basically, it's like a runway truck stop for airplanes. It slows an airplane down that might be overshooting the runway very quickly, very fast, and safely. As far as environmental impacts to the airport with traffic and on the roads and that kind of stuff, that's what we're actually going to be looking at now. We've just kicked off an environmental impact report segment to the whole master plan, and we've just had our scoping meeting for that, and then we'll be coming out with a draft report in about 12 to 18 months that'll be made available to the public for their input. We invite public input. I've got a website that people can log into later and provide their input if they like.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure some people definitely would. So what you're telling me is that it'll actually reduce noise.
Yes.
I heard that in there, which a lot of people are going to be like, how is that possible? But
Sure.
you explained it well. As far as traffic is concerned, you're just now to that point.
Correct.
Where we're saying, okay, let's figure out what that impact looks like.
Sure, if we're talking about, X number of people, it's number of cars and impacts to not just the airport, the community itself. So we're just starting that phase right now with the environmental impact report.
Okay. And from your perspective, Brian, as far as the community is concerned, I mean, it's obviously already convenient to have the airport there.
Right.
So is an expansion like this going to have any effect on the desirability for people to live in Carlsbad? Is it just going to, in other words, is it just going to improve things a little bit, but not enough to have an impact on real estate values and people wanting to come to the area?
So I think you have to look at it starting from a bigger perspective. People want to be in Carlsbad because of convenience for jobs, for example. And if companies want to relocate to Carlsbad because of the airport, if it does improve, then it might bring more jobs that way. Also, too, I'm sure there'll be more jobs at the airport, and it'll just be more convenient for people. My role, obviously, as a Carlsbad correspondent as well, is to talk about real estate and what effect could the airport changes bring to real estate. And I think it's important to kind of parse that out into two portions. One, and the biggest thing is noise and the effect on resale values. The airport's already there. So it's not like we're saying, okay, let's put an airport in, and what effect will that have on home values? Already baked in to home prices around the area of the airport are the fact that there's noise, okay? If noise goes down, even better, but let's assume it stays the same. Then really the effect on home values for the noise won't really change. If there happens to be more noise, now we're just talking about, will those homes, will they decrease in value? Will other homes perhaps go down in value if the noise, expands? But from what we're hearing today, it sounds like that's not going to happen. So as far as the effect of the noise, I don't really see that as being a factor right now based on the plan. Keep in mind that we still have some time for this plan to form, take place, the environmental study. So there's lots of time for input for people to have, and we'll see how this transpires. But if it goes the way it sounds like, I think it could be a positive for the area if these flights are able to take place, if people can fly more in and out from there, if companies can fly in and out, I think it could be a positive.
It could be a huge positive the way I see it.
Yeah.
Because if you're able to, from a corporate perspective, look at downtown San Diego, for example. And for a lot of reasons, it doesn't make sense why there's been so much development in downtown. If you look at some of the macroeconomics and just the social economics aspects of who lives down there, how many people there are.
Right.
But you have a lot of positives like proximity to an international airport. So I think the more it grows, I do think that that's more helpful for businesses, especially big businesses, to say, all right, let's plant our flag in Carlsbad because we can get people in and out quickly. The CEO can fly right in, boom, he's right here. We have an office on Palomar Airport Road.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I see it as being positive.
I would like to add that we're designing for aircraft that are used in the airport today, and aircraft that are not much larger now. You're not going to see 737s used in the airport. Even if we did every single project in the master plan, proposed projects in the master plan, you're not going to see 737s. While they could land, they couldn't maneuver on the airport. So we're not looking to bring larger and bigger jets like some airports might. That's not happening here at Carlsbad.
Okay.
And I would like to say, if you want to get automatic email notifications, you want to find out about what's going on with the airport, go to Palomar Airport MP for masterplan.com. PalomarAirportMP.com. And we also do tours all the time for all kinds of age groups, from little kids to big kids and every kid in between.
Big kids, that'd be
cool.
Right, we'll be going down there, right?
Yeah, I should take a
give
tour.
us a call and log in, come on down there, make an appointment, and we'd be happy to give you a tour.
Okay, sounds good. Really appreciate your time. Mr. Carlsbad, thank you so much for bringing them on.
Thank you.
Great idea. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guest is no stranger here. She's the all-time real estate debate champion and one of our favorite correspondents. Please welcome back real estate expert Elizabeth Story and her special guest, attorney Jason Ebert.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Here they are. All right. Thanks for being here, Jason. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Good to see you. Ms. Story,
yes.
As always, it's great to see you. We're actually going to be playing a preview to the reality show next week on the show. This will be the place you can see it first.
Okay.
But today, you wanted to bring on Jason because there's a lot of sort of understood problems or challenges with probate sales. And I think you wanted to help dispel some of that today.
Yeah, they really don't have to be complicated if everybody works together, knows what they're doing, uses the proper forms, marks the calendar for the time frames. When there's probate, there's certain dates that you have to miss and certain notices that an attorney will need to send out. But probate doesn't have to be overly complicated, especially one thing that probably does complicate it more often than not is when the heirs aren't in agreement. But if we can get those people on the same page, it could be almost as easy as any other transaction with just a few extra steps.
Really?
Yeah.
So it could be that simple then, Jason.
It could be. Probate is basically a process whereby the court appoints an administrator of a decedent's estate. That person is going to inventory and distribute assets according to either the will or California statutory rules. The important thing to remember is only assets titled in a decedent's name alone at death are going to be subject to probate. And so that's why I tell people, a lot of people don't know how their property is titled. Call Elizabeth. She can help you with that vesting question so you have some ideas.
Is there a better way to title the property in general?
Yeah, there are some ways. Some people, husband and wife as joint tenants is pretty common. I think Elizabeth could tell you community property with right of survivorship is very popular recently. But do remember that if both spouses are deceased in these situations, probate would be required unless you put the property into a trust or some other vesting.
Okay.
Which is my recommendation.
Yeah, I was going to say because just having a trust isn't enough. You have to vest the property that way.
Exactly.
Correct.
And that's a different step that I think some people forget that they have to take. Or maybe they don't even know that they have to take it. They think they get a trust. We did a trust. We got a trust. Yeah, but you didn't put the property in the name of the trust.
So it's really important to vest your property into the trust, and there's a couple ways to check on that. Elizabeth could pull the title report to the property and take a look, or you can check your property tax bill if you're concerned and you're not sure.
Okay. Yeah, so if you have a trust, but you're not sure if it's vested.
Exactly.
Okay. Anything else we should know about that?
Well, no, it's just something I make sure to bring up every single client that I've worked with. A lot of times you'll find more mature clients already know these things and they've got their trusts and they've handled it, but sometimes the younger or the first-time home buyers, they're not really familiar with this, and especially when you're buying a property with a loan, you can't buy the property in the name of the trust, so you do have to actually vest it into the trust after closing, but that's something that I can help with as well, so we can take care of that.
Probably same when you refinance too, huh?
Right, you have to take it out and put it back in. But you can change your vesting anytime. So if that's something that you're sitting there thinking right now, okay, I want to put my property into trust, give me a call. I have all the proper professionals, and Jason included, that we can help you with all the mechanics of that.
Okay. And so probate is one of those things people don't choose to do, right? It's something that just sort of happens. And so when people first learn about the word, a lot of times it's like because they're in it, right? Or they're involved in a probate situation. So I'm sure there are many things people could do to make it more complicated, but what are some of those things that maybe people could avoid, Jason?
What I would tell people, the reason it's important to use an experienced probate sales realtor is that right out the gate there's differences. So the probate listing agreement is different than a regular listing agreement. There's probate disclosures that are different, a probate advisory that goes along with it. And all these little differences are things that you would end up paying me to fix if your realtor doesn't know what they're doing. And so I've told Elizabeth, one of the things I look for right out the gate is if a realtor sends me a regular listing agreement in a probate sale, I'm happy to fix that, you know, at my hourly rate, because I know that they're not exactly familiar with the process and it's important.
Okay, so there's a separate listing agreement.
Right, there's a separate listing agreement, and you can actually invalidate the transaction by doing things improperly. We had a real fun one a couple years back where the buyer wanted to change in the transaction, but you can't, it's not as simple with probate. You can't just simply change buyers because there's a notice that Jason has to send out and it has to be out for a certain amount of time. So it's important that everybody who completes the forms in a probate transaction uses the right forms, again, adheres to the guidelines and the time and the notices, and does it properly.
Okay, so you have different forms, you have a different listing agreement.
Yep.
That's probably going to be news to some of the people who are watching this show. And people need to know those things, but how would you know? I mean, if it just happens to you, right? Because that's what happens with probate, it just happens to you. So now you're in this situation, you need to have some trusty people that you can call.
Right.
Like you guys, you can get some people involved who know what they're doing and can take care of that, because you've got other things to worry about. Right, Jason? Isn't that the normal situation people are in? They have a lot of family things happening.
Right.
So it's really difficult to be so cognizant and clear about all the financial issues.
Exactly. It's important to remember that in an estate, you know, any heir, any beneficiary, if they get that notice and they say they don't like the terms of the sale, they can gum up the works. So it's real important to have somebody with expertise in the real estate side as well as your attorney knowing to be transparent, to kind of bring people into the fold so that they can get that accomplished. All the while somebody's overwhelmed dealing with the loss of a loved one.
Yeah, and that's all happening at the same time. So it can be a difficult time for people.
Absolutely.
Elizabeth, what do you do differently to sell a home that's in this situation? Obviously, there's different paperwork and different things like that you have to do. I'm sure there's other things professionally that you have to do to sort of notify the buyer of the circumstances.
Right. Well, I think it's important to make sure that all heirs feel like their concerns are being heard. So if you can meet with and talk to as many of the heirs as possible so that they have a relationship with you as well, it makes them more comfortable with the transaction and a lot less likely that they're going to block it down the road. As Jason mentioned, they do have the power to do that. As far as the buyer's perspective, you would never want to hurt the value of the property or discourage people from buying it because it's probate. So if there was a real estate agent that wasn't super familiar, and it has happened before, that wasn't really super familiar with probate, I just help her. And her clients don't need to know that I was the one that was helping her, because again, my fiduciary responsibility to my client is to sell their property for the most money as fast as possible with the least amount of hassle. So if that requires me helping somebody, then I'm happy to do it. But it's not something where, like for example, we've talked about divorce on this show before too. You don't have to make it this big red flag or this big awful thing. It can still be a very pleasant transaction for everyone that's involved.
Yeah, no question. If you have the right people involved and that are able to take care of those complications so that you can worry about what you need to do.
Right. If you found yourself in a probate situation or if you have questions or concerns, please know that Jason and I are both available for a free consultation, or if you'd like some advice on setting up a trust, Jason and I can also help you with that, so please don't hesitate to give us a call.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciate your time. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guest is our go-to guy in Scripps Ranch. Please welcome back real estate expert, Scott Ryan.
There he is.
Thank you.
Mr. Ryan is here.
Good to see you.
What's up, my friend?
It's going good. How are you?
Scripps Ranch. Homes are flying off the shelves.
Oh, that's crazy.
I mean, isn't it?
It's crazy.
I mean, it's a crazy market in you know, San Diego in general.
Sure.
Scripps Ranch has been this little community that, it's not really little. It's a pretty big community actually, but it's been so hot for so long, and you just wonder how long can it keep going like this. But recently you had a listing there and went pretty well, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I pitched it on the last show we had, and you know, I knew this listing would sell fast, but this is really a textbook story, and I think it's a lesson to all sellers out there. If you want to get top dollar for your home, you can do it in a top market. But if you really want to get top dollar for your property, you know, I highly recommend you do what these folks did. You know, number one, they did a great remodel. You know, you see a lot of remodels out there that are done with class and taste, and then you see some that are just kind of low end. This is a very high-end remodel. You know, they replaced every piece of drywall. They upgraded the lighting, the plumbing, the infrastructure, you know, the flooring, all the surfaces. And you do that added with staging. They hired the professional stager, Carol Kaplan, Everything Creative. She does all of the big houses in La Jolla. They pulled almost every single piece of furniture out of there. Sometimes people will repurpose and use some of their stuff in stage, but these folks did everything, and it came out magnificent. And so we ended up having 7 offers on the property, which is great, and we're currently negotiating those offers.
And there was a lot of traffic through the open house too, right? That's always your sign that you've priced the property appropriately, or that the market's hot, or both.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, I really like to lead all of the marketing up to getting to that open house. I think in today's market, a lot of buyers just want to go on their own. It's great to have an agent to go with and have some private time in the house, but they also like to just go and check things out on their own, whether they're curious or maybe it's another seller in the neighborhood is thinking about doing their house. I brought 40 sheets to the open house. I had 2 left when I was done. And I didn't give a sheet to everybody that didn't want one. So there's close to 100 people that came through that open house with the groups of people that came through. It was very, very busy. Lots of neighbors, lots of great compliments, and it's just a very high traffic, intense open house.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you the demand. I mean, those are real buyers. I mean, granted, some of those people were neighbors, but the good portion of the people there were real buyers actively looking to buy property.
What does that tell you from an opportunity standpoint? Does that sort of illuminate an opportunity in that marketplace?
I think if you're a seller, it definitely opens the doors for you opportunity-wise to get top dollar for your property. We've had a huge inventory shortage in Scripps Ranch for a long time. I mean, it's up slightly from maybe a month ago. We had less than 40. Now I checked this morning, there was probably 46 homes for sale. So things are still selling. Inventory is slightly up, but we're still looking for that core price range in Scripps Ranch, which is hard to find. 7 to 850, right? Maybe 9. Above the $1 million mark, you can probably find a house if you're a buyer.
Yeah.
But if you're in that lower tier bracket, that's where the sweet spot is. And interestingly enough, based on the offers I got, there seems to be a lot of buyers out there that they're at that 10, 15% mark down. They're trying to take advantage of low rates, which I understand. But when you're competing against people with large down payments or people with cash or that sort of thing, it can be a challenge as a buyer to go ahead and buy that property.
We're heading into the hot season now.
Sure.
So we haven't even gotten there yet. Is this going to just be a crazy summer for real estate in San Diego?
I hope not. I feel so bad for all these buyers that want to live in my community. It's an awesome place to live, and so I'm hoping that the inventory levels ease up a bit and some of these sellers take advantage and list their home. But I think things will continue to be slow growth. I'm hoping that prices don't escalate too high, because that just creates some uncertainty in the mind of buyers and the community. But if we continue to see on this path of slower growth, I think we'll be great.
The inventory challenge is kind of a catch-22, isn't it? Because it's like the sellers need to have a place to go before they can list their house.
Yeah.
And when it's a seller's market, it's great when you're selling.
Sure.
It's great. But if you also are a buyer in the same market because you're looking to buy something else, you kind of have to consider that too. What is it that would allow for inventory? Is there anything on the horizon that would allow for inventory to open up in Scripps Ranch?
Well, we talked about it before. So they are building the Glen, which is the active retirement community on the south side of Palmerado, and that has been approved, but they are waiting to get through the lawsuit period where someone could file a lawsuit, to stop it. I think they're a couple weeks out from that, but potentially there could be a slew of upcoming inventory for those people looking to sell, make a move into some form of active retirement, whether it's at the Glen or any other place in San Diego.
Well, the Glen has obviously been talk of the town in Scripps Ranch for a while now, because it's one of those things that's kind of overdue. Clearly based on the demand. I mean, 1,000 deposits for 450 units?
I know.
That tells you all you need to know right there.
Sure.
The question is, when is the Glen 2 coming? Because based on that, someone's going to see that as an opportunity, and they're going to probably try to figure it out.
I heard there is one other proposal. It's right at the corner of Scripps Lake Drive and Scripps Ranch Boulevard, down towards past the lake. And actually, if you drive past that area now, you'll see some grading going on in there. But they don't have any plans. I think, in talking with Bobby Ilko, the president of SRCA, and some of the other community leaders, they really The Glen was the first in. They want to focus on that first. And then, so there will be some other smaller potential developments happening within the community or around that area. You know, there's also other options up towards Rancho Bernardo and some other areas around San Diego, but Scripps Ranch is obviously highly desirable and people have lived there for a long time. So why would you want to leave?
Yeah,
right?
Well, clearly that's been the problem, right? Because no one wants to leave, therefore they're not selling their homes. So people who want to move in there, they've got to kind of battle for it.
Sure.
I mean, if you're a buyer, you want to live in Scripps Ranch. I mean, give us your honest advice. Let's say I'm a family, we want to move to Scripps Ranch. What do I need to be prepared to do in order to make that a reality?
One, work with the local expert. Someone like myself or, you know, these other agents that have been there a long time, they know not only all the developments, they know the other agents. So having a good agent-to-agent connection is important, I think, in negotiating. Be approved, which we've talked about over and over again. Save your money, come in with a strong down payment if you can. If you can't, you can make up for it in other ways, whether it's contingency time frames, closing time frames, that sort of thing. Those all can help.
Okay.
You know?
So there's a way if you have the will.
Sure.
But you got to be prepared to go out there and battle because people want to live in this
You got to be
place.
assertive and you got to go after it. Yeah.
So I wanted to know if we could get a quick preview from you for next month's show. Todd Durkin's coming on.
Absolutely.
Now,
he is our fearless community fitness hero.
This guy is like super famous nationally. Trained like the who's who of the NFL and whatnot. They're doing NBC is doing a reality show about this guy.
Yeah, hosted by Sylvester Stallone.
What?
Yeah.
We're going to be on this show.
Yeah.
So you're bringing Todd Durkin on, which is obviously really, really cool. And everyone at Scripps Ranch knows this guy. And how could you not?
Sure.
But is there anything special you have up your sleeve for when Todd comes on?
No, I think Todd has such a great personality. And it's more than just about his show. I mean, this guy has changed my life by allowing me to work out at his gym and learn from his trainers. But Todd has this whole impact program, and he'll share with you what it's all about. And it's pretty amazing, the encouragement and the things that you can learn from a guy like Todd. It's pretty powerful stuff. So we'll look forward to having him on the show.
Yeah, very much look forward to it. And I'll tell you this right now, if you're looking to sell a home in Scripps Ranch, call Scott Ryan. This guy knows how to get it off the shelves quickly and get you top dollar. Of course, if you're looking to buy in the community of Scripps Ranch, call Scott Ryan as well. He's got inventory there, and he knows the people. He knows how to make it happen for you. Hey, great show, guys. That's a wrap. Jade, what's your schedule look like? Do you mind breaking down the set?
Not today, Derek. I'd love to, but there's waves out there. I gotta go. Angela? Nikki?
Yeah, I gotta go beat traffic. And I think Nikki's making something up there.
Look at this. We did this. We did all of this.